Hello, my name is Alfonso Gutierrez. I'm an attorney at law, specializing in corporate law, foreign investments, and business strategies. As I mentioned in the previous video, the objective of this channel is to try to develop a certain sense of conscience or knowledge about certain topics that are very important to know and that I felt were not being discussed sufficiently well in the social sphere, the social media sphere. And that is the objective, and I hope you will agree and follow this channel. Now, as we talked in the first video, we talked about money, what money is. And basically, money is a commodity which has the specific objective of getting rid of bartering. This video, we will talk about gold as money and the importance it has had up to this day. Now, as we said, money is basically just a means of getting rid of bartering. For example, if you have a cow and you need a chicken, well, you have a problem. So what could you do? You could use the milk as a form of money. 1 bucket of milk for one chicken, 2 buckets of milk for 2 chickens, right? Now, obviously, milk is not a practical means of money because money has to have at least 5 very special qualities. The first one is should be desired by everyone. Everybody should want that piece of paper. Secondly, it should be divisible. Divisible in the sense that, for example, you could use a $1 bill or a $2 bill, a $5 bill, or a quarter or a dime, etc. Those things you can add or subtract to it, which is which permits you to give the exact amount for something, not overpay or underpay for something. It should not go rotten very easily. It should not disappear, which would be the third quality. Milk obviously does. It should not be, there shouldn't be so much of it that it has really no worth, in the sense that, seashells, there's so many of them that, who cares? I mean, there's some economists say that people used to use seashells and whatever, but there were so many that if that's true, that very few people, it didn't last too much as money. And also, it should not be useful. This is a big irony. Everybody thinks that money should be useful. It shouldn't be. For example, if you have a sword or a spear, you need those things. You need those things to defend yourself or to hunt, kill, and eat, survive. If you give them away, you don't have them, well, you're going to die. So money should not be useful. It should be something that everybody wants, divisible, and so forth. And that's not going to cost you your life, your well-being, because you don't have it. Gold and silver, ironically, fit perfect in these categories. Gold and silver have this unique quality. They've transcended time and place and cultures. Doesn't matter if you were a pharaoh 3,000 years ago in Egypt, a French king 500 years ago, or a Hollywood star today. Everybody loves gold and silver. Everyone. Why? Well, first of all, because they're very beautiful. And that beauty gives a certain distinction to whom he wears that. It could be in a ring, a bracelet, a necklace, an earring, or a crown. It gives distinction. They're very beautiful, especially gold. And they're very rare, which means that you get a sense of exclusivity. Not everyone can wear a golden crown. Now, as 2,600 years ago, a revolution happened. uh, in money. People used to use money as little pebbles. I mean, you would go to a river and you would discover certain pebbles in the river. That you would take them and you exchange them, and people would then use them as melt them, use them as jewelry or whatever. But for the most part, they would exchange little pebbles. That's obviously very complicated. You have to weigh them and a whole lot of things. Then in the Kingdom of Lydia, in southern Turkey, 2,600 years ago, a revolution happened. The, the king of Lydia decided to make coins out of gold and out of silver, and it revolutionized commerce and it and hence revolutionized world history. Those coins had the royal seal, which meant that they had the exact amount and the quality that those coins pretended to have. It helped avoid frauds and other kinds of problems. Soon enough, that money became the world's money. Everybody wanted those coins. Other kingdoms later on got into that same thing, but literally revolutionized the world. A small little invention, the coin, 2,600 years ago. Well, as time passed and commerce became more complicated, it became obvious that it was very difficult to carry large amounts of gold or silver coins. So people began to deposit them in certain places. Those places became later known as banks. That's the origin of banks. That's where people would leave their gold coins or silver coins, and they would get a piece of paper that proved that deposit. It said how many gold coins or silver coins you had. And little by little, people found it was a lot easier to exchange those pieces of paper than the coins themselves. For example, you go somewhere and you'd buy a cow with 5 golden coins, but instead of going back to the bank for those gold coins, you would just exchange the document that said that you had 5 gold coins there. So it made your life and the seller's life a lot easier. You got the cow, and the seller got a simple document that he could carry around. If he needed the gold coins, he would go and get them, right? Very simple. As time went by, governments decided to get into the act and start printing that money, those pieces of paper, to ensure and try to, the veracity of them and try to avoid frauds. Remember, the objective of governments is to make societies function as smoothly as possible, as efficient and effective. And money, and printing those monies that were really gold or silver receipts, help societies function much better. Now, as time went by, international trade became even more complicated. And although you could trust gold and silver, you really didn't trust the paper that some government printed or not. It just was very complicated. So in 1944, all the different countries allied with the US decided to come to an agreement. At that time, the US was the country with more gold than all other countries in the world. It had more gold deposits for various reasons. Wars mainly, distrust, so they would take their money to the US, and for whatever, the US had all of this gold there. So the US and its allies decided to make an agreement called the Bretton Woods Accords, which all countries that signed it will hold themselves to the US dollar, and the US dollar will hold itself to the gold that it had in reserves, to a $35 per ounce of gold. What does that mean? Well, let's say Britain and the pound. If you had pounds, British pounds, it meant that the British government owed you US dollars in a rate according to the amount of dollars it had in central bank. Okay? So let's say you had pounds, well, you went to the British government and exchanged them for US dollars and in relation to the amount of dollars that Britain had. So now you had dollars. That meant that the US government owed you gold and at an exchange rate of $35 for every ounce of gold it had. So it simplified international commerce. There was a problem with that. You can never mine sufficient gold or silver to keep up with all the demands of money. Let's say that I wanted to buy a tie, and the tie cost 5 little golden coins, but I was only able to mine 1 golden coin. Well, the seller doesn't get to sell the tie. I don't get to buy it. That's called economic depression. There's not enough money to go around to buy and sell things. That's the problem with gold. So the United States, in secret, began to print much more dollars than the gold reserves it had at an exchange rate of $35 per ounce. In other words, there were $70 for every ounce of gold it had, $100 for every ounce. In other words, it welched on its promise of not printing more money than the gold it had at the mentioned exchange rate of $35 for every ounce. Now, at the beginning, there was too little to notice, but little by little, other governments started noticing. Until at one moment, in 1971, the president of France, Pompidou, ordered a French destroyer to be filled with dollars, and it was sent to New York Bay, where there they demanded their gold, an exchange rate, as I said, of $35 for every pound, for every ounce of gold. All the U.S. went wild. They couldn't believe what's happening. Soon enough, other countries began demanding their gold. And in a historic moment, President Nixon, in August of 1971, went before public television and told the American people and the world people that the U.S. was watching on its promise. The U.S. dollar was not going to be backed up by nothing, by zero, much less gold or silver. In other words, we're not going to give you any gold. I don't care how many dollars you have, and if you don't like it, tough cookies. Then immediately the U.S. government went to Saudi Arabia and told them, we're going to make a deal with you. We're going to sell you all the arms, all the political protection, everything you need, with one promise. You will not sell your oil unless you use the US dollar as the form of the means of exchange. It did that with a lot of other governments, oil-producing governments. And as we said in the video before, without oil, a country dies. So that helped keep the supremacy of the United States dollar, later nicknamed as the petro-dollar, as the world's reserve currency or the world's money. Now, these events in August 1971, when President Nixon announced the cutting of the relationship between the US dollar and gold, was historic because for 2,600 years, over 2,600 years, gold and silver were the world's money. They were the world's reserve currency, as a fancy way of saying it. And in one flash, one moment, it stopped, and the US became the world's reserve currency. Not the gold, not that the US dollar represented gold in a bank. So in other words, gold was no. It was the tiny little piece of paper just by itself. That's it. That was the world's money. It replaced gold and silver. It was historic. And that gave rise, obviously, to the US petrodollar. And well, that's the end of this video. We will keep on speaking about other videos later on about this subject. So please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with others. Thank you.